Welcome and thank you for joining me for this first ever English program on my channel. I am Jean-Paul Touré Chimier and today's date is October 9th, 2022. Today, Uganda celebrated her 60th anniversary of independence. First of all, congratulations to our sisters and brothers of Uganda. During this event, presidents and representatives of governments who were present today in Uganda were given opportunity to address Ugandans. In this program, I am not going to talk about every speech by everyone who spoke, but I think it is important to mention a few things addressed by President William Ruto, specifically what pertains to regional integration. Leaders of East African community continue to talk about regional integration. Actually, in his 8-minute speech, President Ruto focused on integration and trade. Obviously, there cannot be integration without free movement of goods, services, and people. This is the area where President Kagame has failed miserably. Among the challenges members are going to have is how they can integrate without addressing the elephant in the room. I can guarantee you that everyone except for Kagame understands that this is the biggest challenge the East African community have. However, in their speeches, they seem to approach this issue or the issue by appeasement or appeasing Kagame. In my views, this appeasement approach is not going to work. And the East African community or the East African community integration will remain just a goal, which in the end is going to die in the process. Before I go further or before I continue, let me play parts of President Ruto's speech and then I'll be back after that.
To now work so that we can eliminate the borders that separate our people in East Africa and in Africa. On ensuring that we bring down the boundaries and the borders and the barriers so that we can have a borderless East Africa community. We are looking in our lifetime, in the next few years, that people, goods, and services can move across this East Africa as we lead the way in ensuring that the Africa Continental Free Trade Area becomes a reality.
Let me welcome you back again. You just heard from President William Ruto speaking about trade, borders, integration between member countries of East African community. But the problem is when I talk about these, about the integration process and regional integration, they do not address the elephant in the room. They keep saying we need to do this, we need to remove barriers, we need to remove borders, but they know that it's pretty much difficult to do that when President Paul Kagame is the problem who is affecting these process to go forward, who's standing in the middle of the process to move forward. And this has started long, long time ago. You can go back in history, and if you remember, President Kagame he has attempted to support President Museveni's opponent since Kizza Besigye. Evidence suggests that money was channeled through his once president advisor, Andrew Mwenda. Andrew Mwenda was among the PAC committee. PAC means Presidential Advisory Committee. And Andrew Mwenda was one of his advisors until recently. Kagame dumped him, was before COVID, I believe. And I don't think there is a statement where Kagame said or publicly said that he's no longer working with Andrew Mwenda, but we know that he's no longer working with him. Here is Andrew Mwenda during a government retreat in Rwanda. I should mention that only government officials were present at this military barracks. That's where Kagame likes to hold these events, the retreats, for obvious reasons. Because that's to pretty much make the officials, government officials, feel submissive. But this is not the purpose for today's program. So let me play for you Andrew Mwenda during the retreat in a brief exchange with Paul Kagame. This is just to show you that Mwenda was part of Kagame's advisors.
First, you see, I agree with you. In fact, today the roles have changed. I always come and express my own frustrations about things not happening. And you always say, no, this law, things can work.
No, I don't misrepresent.
Yes, I have this frustration.
I cannot tell you that be slow. If there's anybody who wants anything slow, it's me. Mm. What I tell you, don't misrepresent me. Mm. What I tell you is, I've one time told you, I said, you see, you fight with an army you have.
Mr. President, so I was saying that, first of all, I am conscious of the fact that I don't want you to get frustrated a lot. I want you also to be motivated, and to be motivated by the achievements.
You don't want, but how are you going to deliver it?
I want you to be motivated.
Because if you can't change these people, I am condemned to frustration.
So when you are motivated that these guys have achieved a lot of things, you can fix those 30% gaps with greater motivation than when you are frustrated. So psychologically, I feel I should do, that is also my responsibility.
No. That sweetening of things is not my world.
And Mr. President, I want these guys also to be motivated that they have achieved so much and they can do much more, rather than for them to walk away thinking they have not done anything. That is why I had to raise these achievements.
I still don't agree.
And three,
I think some people here need to be fought seriously.
And three, there is something called the Pareto principle, that always 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people. And you, as president, you will have to bear a heavier burden, suffer more frustration, and in getting this work done. Not every work will not be distributed evenly. But Mr. President, please, I want these guys to walk away knowing that they have achieved a lot of things. I cover what they do, and they have many weaknesses, but those weaknesses are not as significant as their strengths, and we need to leverage those strengths.
Weaknesses are terrible. Yeah, we have to call a spade a spade. I'm not going to hide. The weaknesses we will spend so much time talking about are just terrible. And I really don't like your comments. You can reserve them for your independent newspaper. You write them there and you read them there, but I'm not here to tell these people lies, or to please them, or to, actually not even to beg them. I'm going to fight them. Yes. I'm not going to hide this. We are going to have to keep fighting. I translate my frustrations into a fight.
I am not going to talk about Andrew Mwenda operations in Uganda. This was just a brief introduction to the issue on how Mwenda was an advisor to Kagame, and also, even though the title said advisor, everyone knows he was pretty much an agent. He was like his main communication channel, because Mwenda he was operating under that umbrella and under that cover, that he is a journalist and a presidential advisor. And it is possible that you may have advisors from foreign countries, but the case of Andrew Mwenda was definitely not about advising Kagame. It was a strategist for him how to weaken President Museveni's power. And everyone in Uganda knows that. So let me go to Kagame in Tanzania, Rwanda and Tanzania. There are credible reports suggesting that Paul Kagame tried to support Chadema. When Chadema, it is, for those who do not know Chadema, what Chadema is a political opposition party in Tanzania. This party, her candidate was running against CCM or President Jakaya Kikwete during his second term campaign. And Kagame tried to support Chadema. That was after President Jakaya Kikwete suggested that maybe Kagame should talk with FDLR. And Kagame did not receive this too well. But it did make sense at the time, because every time Kagame went to the UN or the AU, he always talked about FDLR. On one hand, leaders, they thought maybe FDLR, it is a problem to Kagame and cannot be defeated, because Kagame has sent army in Congo, whether by legitimate agreement between the two countries. They had joint operations. They have named those joint operations as... So what I can remember, one operation was Umoja Wetu. This was a joint operation. Forces of Congo, of FRDC, and Rwandan forces, RDF, they joined hands together to try to defeat these groups, or FDLR. It did not stop there. They also, on another occasion, they operated together. They had another joint operation under the name Kimia 1, Kimia 2, and that was by agreement with the Congolese forces or Congolese president, Congolese government. After these efforts produced no result, and Kagame continued to talk about that, the FDLR in Congo, and MONUSCO's failure to eradicate these forces, President Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete, suggested that maybe You can talk with them. That is when Kagame said or hinted that he is going to hit him, and President Kikwete will not know where the threat is going to come from. He's going to be surprised. By the way, we should also note that Kagame has been trying to convince DRC to speak to M23, despite that he didn't believe it was a good idea when Kikwete advised Kagame to do the same thing. But Kagame's problem is not just in Tanzania, Uganda, in Burundi. This is an easy case to understand and it is not because it's the most recent one. The most recent case is Congo, but because of the overwhelming evidence that exists showing how Paul Kagame attempted to overthrow a legitimate Burundian government. This is the government that was led by Pierre Nkurunziza. When this attempt failed, Kagame evacuated putschists, evacuated them to Kigali. And until today, the putschists are at the center of the diplomatic relationship between Burundi and Rwanda. We should also note that these putschists are housed in safe houses in Kigali. So I am not going to talk about every country tonight, but I promise I'm going to come back to this topic because you know the situation is ongoing right now in Congo. There are reports, credible reports, that Kagame is supporting M23, providing them with arms, trainings, and everything, military support. So I am going to resume this topic by examining Uganda's case vis-a-vis the border closure and its impact, and also the ongoing DRC conflict and the role of Rwanda. Remember, the borders of Uganda, between Rwanda and Uganda, were closed prior to COVID. I think it was in 2019. Because I'm going to come back to this, I do not want to mislead you, but I'm going to come back to this. So in summary, for the integration to occur, or at least a meaningful integration, East African community should tackle the roots of the problem, not the appeasement approach, not to appease Kagame. And so far, President Felix Antoine Tshisekedi, we should give him credit. Let's give him credit. He is the only one who addressed the elephant in the room. I mean, he did say multiple times, citing the reports, credible reports, where the threats are coming from, where the support to M23 is coming from. Sometimes, in the past, Burundi mentioned Rwanda not directly. They'll say, there are neighbors that are doing this and that. Uganda did the same. In the beginning, President Tshisekedi did the same thing, exactly the same thing. But then he changed tone. He realized that it is very important to mention Rwanda by name. This angered Kagame, but at least this can be a beginning of solving this problem. Because we have the reports. We know that Rwanda and Kagame are involved in supporting the rebels. M23 is just one example. It is no way the only case in Congo. So in Kenya, you know that President Kagame killed 2 political asylees in Kenya in 1996. The former Minister of Interior Minister, Mr. Seth Sendashonga. He killed a colonel who fled him. A colonel who used to work under Habyarimana and joined RPF and then fled again in 1995 and was killed in Kenya in 1997. You know that President Kagame and his government are not apologetic for their action in South Africa. He crosses borders to go kill opponents. And he doesn't think that is a problem. He takes pride in doing so. We have speeches. We have statements after statements in the parliament. And I am going to come back to all of these in future programs. As of right now, you know that there is a case of Paul Rusesabagina who was kidnapped in Dubai. So how do you solve, how do you integrate with this kind of behavior where anyone who writes negative comments about Kagame is considered a threat to national security in Rwanda? We know that in Uganda, you can criticize the government. You can criticize Museveni. You can criticize Samia Suluhu Hassan. I hope you can, and I assume you can. And I know you can criticize President William Ruto. No doubt. In Congo, definitely. So if we're going to integrate, we cannot do so when leaders such as Kagame are so paranoid about everything someone says, not just regular people, even leaders of other countries, other nations, member states. So this is the first issue to address. If this is addressed, then the integration is going to be meaningful, is going to make sense, and is going to work. Otherwise, it's going to remain a goal. As of right now, people of Rwanda cannot go to Uganda freely. If you don't believe me, you may believe these people of Rwanda who are saying that going to Uganda, it is a crime. Not just a crime, that it is a signature of death. This happened when one of their own was shot dead by the police. And when journalists or reporters were interviewing him, they said he was a nice guy. This guy who is dead, he is a very good guy. He's a nice guy. He wasn't going to Uganda. He wasn't crossing into Uganda, because crossing into Uganda is a no-no. Unless you're going to Uganda to be a spy. As I mentioned, I'm going to come back to Uganda in particular and Congo in my next segment or my next program. So for now, I am going to, in our program, we're going to continue to examine why, despite all of the evidence, Kagame continued to appear as a darling of the Western world. So this is in our future programs. But despite the evidence, Kagame is, in the eyes of the Western world, somebody who's considered a partner. And maybe, I'm not sure whether the arrogance that he has in the East African community has anything to do with this support he gets from the Western world. So Ugandan issue, the DRC issue, I'm going to come back to it in our future programs. For now, thanks for listening. See you next time. And don't forget to subscribe if you're new to this channel. Again, my name is Jean-Paul Touré. See you next time.